So my competency is not on there, but my essential standard was that we're going to understand the use of fossils and changes in the surface of the earth as evidence of history of earth and its changing life forms. And another essential standard that I did for visual arts was to create art using the processes of drawing, painting, weaving, printing, stitchery, collage, mixed media, sculpture, ceramics, and current technology. That's just two of the few I did. So,
it would pick a process from my list of different ones. I listed all the ones that we've talked about: fossilization, weather and corrosion, landslides, earthquakes, volcanic eruption, mudslides, etc. And they could, if they had one that they just, like a really exciting one that they just really wanted to do, they could suggest that as well. So they would be making the backdrops and the props as, which is what meets the theater objective, about the supporting the dramatic presentations. And so they're going to be making their props and a backdrop to go behind them while they're doing their little dance production. And there will also be a narration to introduce it, to set up the stage for their specific process that they're doing. So if it was an earthquake, they could draw a desert, they could draw whatever they wanted on their backdrop, and then they would have people dancing that would be showing the earthquake, and then they would also have a narrator at the beginning that would be saying, that would be setting the stage, and not necessarily have to say that it was going to be an earthquake, but say, you know, it's the middle of California, and there's a fault line on the backdrop that we drew, and just introducing it. And then they would also write explanations for why they chose what they did in their backdrop and prop-wise. So they would be explaining like what colors they used and why they used those colors, why they drew whatever they drew in their backdrop, and what kind of props they wanted to incorporate. And they would just say why they chose all those things. And then I would go and I would give them all the specific details. So their dance is going to be from 1.5 to 3 minutes long, and it needs to show their whatever process they choose, and each group will only be able to choose one process. So if one group chooses it before the next one, they will have to choose a different one. And then they will make the props in the backdrop. And I would scaffold the props in the backdrop very carefully to make sure that they are using things like paintbrushes appropriately. Okay, so the rubric that I would use, I would have there's a scale on my thing for each of them, but these are just, so the narration just needs to set an accurate stage for the process that they choose. The dance needs to be the appropriate length, show mastery of the process, so you have to understand the progression of the process. Like if it's erosion, you have to be able to see the soil being moved by either the wind or the water or something. And the dance also, meeting the standards, needs to communicate the idea of the experience feeling. So the experience of the soil moving or the experience of the earthquake happening. And then the music choice needs to also express that, if they choose to use music. And the props in the backdrop need to demonstrate the mastery of the science process that they chose as well, and support the dance performance. So the science process, the backdrop couldn't be like of a different science process or have nothing to do with it. It has to be related to it and relevant. And the written description should be grammatically correct and thoroughly provide the reasoning behind why they chose to use those background and props. And so then I just had some extra ideas that I could use as well. We were thinking about this, and we could have even made this into a grade level production. After they've learned all of this stuff, they could even, like, each class could have a different cycle, like the fossilization process, and one class would do the process of fossilization, another one would do short processes that change, or short-term processes that change the earth, like earthquakes and things like that. And they would each do like basically what I'm doing, like the whole class would make a big backdrop, and they could even do a production like for the parents or for the whole school and as a grade level. And I can also easily integrate the language arts standards as well, because I had them write about why they chose what they did. And I could also incorporate visual arts very easily, because they would be painting or drawing or doing whatever to their backdrops that they felt necessary. So you guys are going to be in groups of 2 to 3, so you can pick who you're working with, and you're going to make a 15 to 30-second dance performance of any process that you want to. It can be one that we've already done, one that we did for the music, or you know, the process of something becoming a fossil, like dying and then the bone cementing and becoming a fossil. Whatever you want to do, and you'll have 2 minutes. And you don't have to use music, so you can just do this silently. Well, you don't have to be silent, but you can do it without music.
Here are pictures to remind you of some of the. So we can do weather or just minerals.
So you can do any short-term or long-term process that changes the earth. So you can do like weathering, erosion, things like that that are long-term processes that change the earth slowly over time. Or you can do short-term processes like earthquakes, that also change the earth.
Does that count?
Yes, right.
Oh, that's perfect. You can go slower than that.
No, we're at we're whatever, number 5.
Do they rate
Category 5. It's hurricanes.
Can
anybody guess what we are?
We want to guess. Is there a little background you could give us? It's a little water.
Are you a landslide? No.
Were you erosion?
No.
Are you wind? Technically, it could lead to erosion, but
A
I'm not
tsunami.
gonna say anything.
We are a tsunami. Where the waves like pulling back and then the big wave.
Okay, now do it again, now that we know you're.
Yeah, do it again now.
Look at that fancy artwork.
Yeah, that
Ready?
was cool.
Yeah, that's like, it's coming in.
And you better run. And then that's the big old wave. Okay.
That's beautiful.
I guess it would have made more sense if we had gone like this way, but I didn't think about that.
But we need to go that way.
Get in the window. Okay. All right.
Oh,
You ready?
Okay.
Did you ready?
Yes.
Wasn't it? I got it. I got the buildings.
What,
I got the
Casey?
X-way.
Earthquake?
Yeah, the
Do it
buildings.
again.
I like that. The flakes were moving.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, see, listen in geology. Okay.
Boundaries.
All right.
Yeah. Perfect.
Did you get it now?
I got it.
Percussion.
Like, we gotta give us some more right here. I kinda get
Are y'all
nervous.
jumping?
Tornado.
Tornado.